Android Headline Show, episode number 22. We're coming to you from our AH headquarters here in freezing Los Angeles today, where it is a balmy 50 degrees out and we're freezing and the world is about to collapse because of it.
Yeah.
We have a supersized post-CES show for you where we're going to try and cover some of the main products that came out last week, some you may not heard of, and some we're just going to give you some opinions on what we thought about it. We also are going to cover some news stories that have just broken, some Nexus 5, new Nexus tablet devices, AMOLED displays, LG, Asus tablets, and tons of other stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our co-host for the show today. I'm going to start here off to my left, Alex Maxim the Great from Detroit Rock City. How you doing, Alex?
Pretty good. How about you?
Awesome, buddy. Awesome. And to my right, we have resident Android Headlines diva Christine Gardner from the Cheesehead State.
No, don't talk about the Cheeseheads. We're not happy with them.
Not too good, not too good. And we have sitting next to her, Justin Diaz. Thank you for showing up, Justin. Justin is one of our resident gamer guy who is making an appearance on the show for us. Special edition with Justin here. And how you doing, Justin?
I'm pretty good. How are you guys?
Awesome, buddy.
Fabulous.
Awesome. And our associate editor, assistant editor, Tom the Duke Dawson, coming to you from Buckingham Palace, UK. How you doing, Tommy?
Not too bad. It is actually cold here in the UK as opposed to this LA.
Yeah.
How cold is it, Chris?
Well, I tell you, it's gone down to like 50. Sometimes we're hitting even 27.
Oh no!
27 during the evenings.
We were minus 10 today. Just saying.
But be rest assured, warm weather is on its way to LA, and by Thursday, Friday, I'll be outside in shorts for a nice 75-degree weather. So LA will survive through this week. All right, guys. Barely. So let's get right into the show, guys. We have a ton of stuff to talk about. We wanted to first bring you a breaking story from Alex, and I'm going to go right to Alex on this and not spoil the fun. Alex, what's this breaking story that just popped up?
Well, about an hour ago, I guess, some early leaks of the Nexus 5 and Nexus 7.7 that are supposed to be debuting at Google I/O in May just popped up with features, specs, pricing, and everything. Both of them are supposed to be manufactured by LG, and
What are the specs on this Nexus 5, supposedly?
The Nexus 5 specs is supposed to be a 5-inch 1080p display with a 440 ppi, with the Tegra 4 processor, 2 gigs of RAM, the 8 and 16 gigabyte internal storage with a 13 megapixel camera and a 3 megapixel front-facing camera.
Now, of course, any type of rumors like this so early in the year, we're going to take them with a grain of salt. You know, it's still way too early to even be talking Nexus 5. Like, you know, we're like, what, 10 months away from that actually happening. And, you know, we're going to hear all kinds of crazy rumors coming out. And I'm going to have to, you know, call bullshit on an LG Nexus 5 rumor because the, you know, Nexus 4 is barely out or non-delivered, you know, having issues. And I don't see that we're going to be having an LG making the next Nexus device.
If I don't get a Nexus 4 and they bring out a Nexus 5, I'm going to shit on Google's front lawn.
No.
That's how angry I am.
Wow.
I've been waiting to get one, and they're always out of stock.
Okay, well, I can tell you don't have to worry about that because it's not going to happen. First of all, they don't even have the other one out. There are no way. I don't know, you know, where the blame has gone with this Nexus Gate here. Poor launch and everything like that.
Oh, boy.
But I don't foresee that LG is going to be building the next device. And we're talking about 8 and 16 gigabyte of internal storage. That is just not going to happen on the next devices.
Especially with a 13 megapixel camera.
Yeah, well, the
Take
13
three pictures and your storage is gone.
Exactly. The 13 megapixel camera, that's on the Optimus G. Great camera, but there's no way that's going on an 8 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte internal storage. So let's, we've put out the rumor for people that want to read and want a little early Nexus news, but I would say take that with a grain of salt. I doubt that that's going to happen. Now, there's a second part to this rumor, Alex, and it's about a tablet. What's the story here?
Yeah, it's rumored that LG is going to manufacture the Nexus 7.7, which will also have a 1080p display. Of course, it's a 7.7-inch display with the Tegra 4 processor, 2 gigs of RAM, 8 and 16 gigabyte storage, and it just says that it's a 720p HD front and rear-facing cameras.
Now, I will tell you that LG has been rumored to make a Nexus tablet for a while. We heard these rumors all the way back to 2011. So, there could be some, truth to it that LG, maybe they had struck a deal with Google to do a tablet prior. So there is some possibilities that this could have a little bit of truth to it. I'm not going to bank on it, but they've had their name thrown around for the next Nexus tablet for a while. So it is plausible that it could happen. It is very early, for it to happen. But with Google I/O coming in May, you'd have to think that Google has already their device manufacturer for the next tablet already picked out. And we haven't heard anything from any of the other manufacturers. So it could be LG has gotten, the rights to produce the next Nexus 7 device. They say that it'll be 1 millimeter thick. That's a really small bezel. I don't know. It says an 8 gigabyte and a 16 gigabyte storage. I have a real problem with that unless they're throwing in a micro SD slot in there. I don't think they're going to go down that road. Although, when you're this early in the rumor stage, specs are going to change from week to week. But it is plausible that it could happen. So, take all of these rumors with a grain of salt. We'll definitely be following these stories, and I would say that the Nexus tablet is going to be hot on the rumor mill for the next couple of months as we get closer to Google I/O. Anyone else want to add their thoughts on these rumors here just before we move on? Anyone want to throw in some 2 cents on it?
I'd like to say a couple of things. I read Alex's story because that was the first one that caught my eye, of course.
Go, Alex.
Yeah. Nexus, anything, it's always going to catch my eye. Quad-core Tegra, or the Tegra 4, we haven't seen anything with Tegra 4. It was just available at CES, so I highly doubt it in terms of specs on that. It's my own personal opinion, but I think it's more for like a hope of what people maybe want to see inside of it. It'd be great, but when we don't have any other devices that have it, shoot, they just announced it a week ago. That quick? I don't know.
Well, we're not going to, in all fairness, Justin, we're not going to see that device till probably June by the time it rolls out. It's not going to roll out with an old Tegra 3 chip in it like the current Nexus 7. I'd like to see possibly, maybe a Qualcomm in there, or maybe an A15 from Cortex A15 from Samsung, which would be quite powerhouse. We'll get into that device later on, or that chip later on. But it's going to have a new chip. There's no doubt it's going to have some new power. They got to throw something new in there. Even if it was just announced, probably the OEM and manufacturers did have, the specs on this stuff earlier than what we've seen at CES's release. Anybody else?
I really hope it's fake.
Okay.
Me too.
All right, guys. Well,
LG to make it.
It's yeah. LG is falling out of favor with this.
You're just hating on LG.
Yeah.
What's the problem with the Nexus 4? I don't understand why people are hating on their Nexus 4.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with the Nexus 4. I think the whole problem with the Nexus 4 was the rollout of it, the botched launch of it, the botched release of it, and the fact that, you know, probably only half of the people that wanted the Nexus 4 have even received it yet. So some of the hate on LG might be their manufacturing because, you know, obviously they're not able to keep up with demand. Is there some fault on Google's end that maybe they underestimated the amount of sales or popularity? Is there a bit of a share of the blame? Of course there is. But I think that this has probably been the weakest launch of any Nexus device that we've seen.
That's very true. Think back to the Galaxy last year. There's a huge launch, lots of you know, videos and all that kind of stuff on it. Marketing was crazy.
Exactly, you know, and this thing, definitely, this device should be in the hands of everyone that wants it by now. The fact that we're sitting mid-January and people are still waiting on a lot of these devices and you can't even order them from the store, unless they're selling billions of them, this is pretty embarrassing for LG and Google on my end. You know, there's nothing wrong with the device itself, you know, but just the rollout of it has been, you know, pretty shoddy considering it's coming from Google and LG. Anyways, that's a topic for another day to beat on those guys about that, and we will. Let's move on to our next story here, and we're going to go over to, I believe it is Tom. Tom, you want to hit up our next story?
Yeah, well, it's that time of year where the rumours around the next Galaxy S start flowing, but we've already heard far too much about the Galaxy S4. But now there's just more evidence to suggest that the S4 is going to be packing a 4.99-inch Full HD display, and there is possibility of it coming with you know, some of Samsung's Yaum or however you pronounce it.
Flexible display.
Yeah, they're flexible display technology, which I don't see it, to be honest, because the devices they showed off at CES were just sort of prototypes. There was no underlying system running on those devices. They were just sort of glorified displays, you know, just sending out one image. But the real evidence came, you know, where they made a bit of a big deal about their Yaum sort of thing. It was in their keynote. But at the same time, they had another slide showing off their how their mobile displays could scale as well. And then at the end of it was, you know, coming Q1 2013 was a 4.99-inch Full HD AMOLED display. So,
with a 440 PPI, which is sweet.
Well, it's got, you know, yeah, it's a massive PPI. It's Samsung's entry into the Full HD game, 1920 by 1080. So, you know, I think it's all but set that the Galaxy S4 is going to come with this size display and this resolution. But I really don't see flexible.
Now, does it have that? You know, that's what piqued my interest about this story was, is it going to have the flexible display? And I kind of threw it out on our Google Plus page, or our G Plus page, that, you know, is this something that they're going to want to do? Flexible display is going to be a little new. You know, do they want to take their flagship device and put flexible display on it, or do they want to start a new flagship device to roll out this flexible display?
I think that would be the best way to do it, because as Samsung have ruled with the 1-2 punch of the S line and the Note line, now they've sort of the Note line and the Galaxy S line are so different together that they stand apart from each other, but they still sort of rule. They still sort of lead the pack. But if they were to turn the Galaxy S into a flexible display, then you could potentially alienate a huge amount of users that just want a reliable phone for the next 18 to 24 months.
Definitely, they don't want to kill, you know, their golden goose as it is. Now, you could see them have some flexible display in there, but maybe not, you know, as crazy as maybe some of those, you know, with the curved edges.
Yeah,
so the curves. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean the curved edges are pretty cool. But what it is like they've got two prototypes they were showing off. One, they've got like a curve at the you know, at the bottom of the phone and at the top of the phone, and then at the side and at the two sides. And the idea behind that is that, say you put your phone on the table, sort of face up, the curve over the edge could, you know, tick over your notifications because you can still see part of the display. Which sounds cool, but I think if they were going to put in flexible AMOLED, it would just be a slight curve of the display.
And that's probably what we will see if it goes to the Galaxy S4 is maybe a curving or something, just something slightly invariable, nothing too radical. I think they would save that for maybe another device kind of to test and see if how
they need to get it right before they roll it out massively anyway.
And and it is pretty interesting stuff because you know it has a lot of potential to have some funky design, to try some new stuff with this flexible display, and get some kind of different looking type of handsets out of it, and use the handsets differently, and innovate a little bit more than just your standard rectangular smartphone. But I don't think that they're going to take their Galaxy S4 flagship device and radically change it. There's nothing broken with it. It is selling like hotcakes, so not going to be too much on there. Anyone else want to throw something else in on the flexible displays before we move on? I'm going to take that as a no, guys. I don't know where that's coming from. Not me. Okay, let's head over to Alex here. Alex, you're covering the next story for us. Alex, what do we got?
Well, this week there was a Samsung presentation slide that was kind of leaked that hints at the Galaxy S4 4.99-inch AMOLED display.
I think that's the one that Tom was just talking about. No, I was looking at, you were going to talk about the LG. The LG planning to do a full HD phone for Q1.
Yeah, LG is looking to do a 1080p phone and then the Optimus G2 for fall. But I don't think they'll be able to do it because they can't even get the Nexus 4 out there.
Ooh, what a slam on there. Now, this 5.5 is going to be quad-core. We don't have too much specs on it other than it'll be a 5.5-inch full HD display. Is there anything? And the Optimus G2 is based on the first Optimus G that is still selling really well. It's kind of surprised that they've already made some announcements about it, but that wouldn't be coming out till late fall, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. So look for LG, which did not announce any phones at CES. We're going to go next back over to Tom here. And Tom, there was a new budget tablet out. What's the scoop on this?
Well, Asus don't appear content with the the Nexus 7 on the shelves, so they are launching the Mimo Pad for $149, which is a 7-inch Android tablet with a 1024 by 600 resolution display, a 1 megapixel front-facing camera, 1 gigabyte of RAM, 8 or 16 gigabytes of storage, but it does have an SD card slot.
Nice.
And a 4270 milliamp hour battery, Android 4.1 Jelly Bean, and a VIA WM8950 processor clocked at 1 gigahertz with a Mali 400 GPU, which is probably not going to be that great.
Well, in retrospect, this is obviously a budget tablet, and it's not made to compete with the higher end ones or even the Nexus 7 for that matter of fact. It is definitely an entry level tablet that is not going to be playing the latest games, but it's a tablet for people to get their first tablet.
Yeah, and it looks like a fairly decent looking tablet, probably because it looks so similar to the Nexus 7. But I mean, it comes in a range of colors. It's going to be easy for them to sell, and it looks like a better offering than Acer's Iconia B, which looks like something you'd find like on like an eBay special or something. Like this actually looks like a product that you might recommend to someone that doesn't want the Earth or is not going to do masses of reading or web browser or anything. You could just say, well, spend this on this and be happy with it. It's the sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cheap tablet. It's the type of thing that you might buy for your kids or maybe someone who's not an avid tablet user, just someone who wants one around. Maybe a wife wants an extra one for some light reading. Someone's not going to do any serious gaming.
Just buy one and keep it in the car.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is still too closely priced with the Nexus 7. Like, I mean, for another $50, you get a Nexus 7. So.
Yeah, I mean that's where the problem. I think where you're going to see these type of tablets, and I think you're going to see an influx of them coming in the next year. And probably a tablet like this specs is not going to do great in a North American market, where it's going to be a lot more competitive. We're going to probably see at Mobile World Conference a lot of these budget tablets coming out with some great specs that are probably even going to kill the Nexus 7. I think you're going to see a tablet like this is going to maybe be for emerging markets, places that maybe haven't had the penetration of say the North American market with tablets. Whether you get into South Africa, or South America, these type of places that maybe don't have the abundance of selection of technology. Some of the poorer areas as well too. That don't have maybe necessarily the wide variety of tablets like we have here in the U.S. So either way, what's interesting is that we're going to be seeing an influx of cheaper tablets and better specs coming, and that's great for the consumers. And this starting at $149 is a great price point, and they're talking about the $99 Nexus tablet coming down the road. It's going to be great to see, who's going to be the first one to break that $99 price bracket and what kind of specs you're going to get for it. So, the next news, let's keep with you, Tom. There was a little bit of a leak in regards to a new version of Android coming, which is probably not it's probably just an update or something. But what's the deal?
Yeah, apparently there's some, the Nexus 4 is made by LG. We all know that, and they have a factory in Brazil, and a Brazilian outlet got their hands on a Nexus 4 that rolled off the line with Android 4.2.2 on there, there's no sort of real changes to the software build, and it's probably just going to be a bug fix to 4.2.
Might be an extra bell or whistle in there, but nothing to go crazy about or huge.
No, I think they're probably just going to sort of double down on the whole thing and sort of polish it up a little bit better. Because I honestly wouldn't know, because I have yet to flash a 4.2 ROM on my One X. But I know Alex has had a lot of time with 4.2, and there are some bugs throughout the Nexus 7 and Galaxy Nexus users. So maybe this solves some of them,
How are the bugs? Are they getting started? Or Alex, you've had the 4.21.
I didn't see a whole lot of bugs on the Nexus 7.
What about on the Nexus 4? I know there were a few complaints in some of the forums that some of the guys were having quite a handful of issues, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, the media server bug for the battery. The media server will take 30 to 50% of your battery, even when nothing's running. That's one of the big ones. It may not be that high. It might be a little bit lower, like 25, but it's still a big deal.
And then there were some other random quirks as well, too, right?
Yeah. Just overall, the battery life, the touch display for the Nexus 4. Sometimes when you touch it, it doesn't respond. You have to do it again.
So I think that's where we're going to see the 4.22 come out as well. Maybe I know there were a few little quirks too as well for the Nexus 7. Little ones, it wasn't everybody. And just to throw another thing about this 4.22, it was also we've seen a report earlier this afternoon that somebody in the Czech Republic, as well as seen this on their Nexus 4 as well too out there. So it's definitely coming. So fixes are on the way. Just don't expect anything crazy or new. It's probably just going to be an update to clear up some old issues. Now, last week CES took place. CES 2013 it was a crazy week with tons of news coming through. It wasn't an Android mobile show. You didn't have as much as I'm sure a lot of the tech fans out there would have had hoped for. For those of you at home that were expecting more, CES is more of a, they call it consumer electronics. This is, where you're going to see a lot of,
Oven.
yeah, a lot of
Android-powered ovens.
fridges, a lot of supporting products, TVs, and stuff like that. You're going to see some of the technology that's going to go into future phones. You're going to see a lot of the accessories and stuff like that. Now, mind you, there were a few announcements that did take place out there. So if you guys want to get into the limelight, it's a perfect show to kind of jump in and throw your product onto market and not have it overshadowed by World Mobile Conference, where everyone and their dog is going to be releasing a phone. So if you wanted to kind of get your stuff out there early to market, it was a good time to do it. A lot of manufacturers didn't. So we had manufacturers from China throwing out a few of their devices. Some of the other devices that maybe would have been overshadowed or not had gotten as big play at Mobile World Conference came out. So I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard about some of the stuff that was announced last week. We're just going to go over a few of the items that were announced that we picked out, and which ones we feel that worthy of talking about, and stuff that we're probably going to hear and see more about in the next year. I'm going to head this off to Alex here. ZTE announced a phone. What was it? What are the specs on it? What do you think?
They announced the ZTE Grand S, which has a 5-inch Full HD 1080p display. It's powered by a 1.7 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon S4 Pro processor. It's got a 13 megapixel rear-facing camera and a 2 megapixel camera on the front. 2 gigs of RAM, 13 gigs of internal storage, and it has a micro SD card slot, along with a 1780 milliamp battery and Android 4.1 Jelly Bean. And it's like the thinnest 5-inch Full HD or 5-inch quad-core device out there right now. It looks pretty good.
Thin. Yeah, this was a very nice looking phone. If you guys had a chance to look at it, if not, go to our site, check it out. It's a sharp looking phone.
It also supports LTE, so it could come to any one of our carriers here in the U.S.
Yeah, and I think that this phone would, you could put it beside somebody, the Samsung or Motorola or whoever, HTC, and it wouldn't look out of place. It's definitely a nice looking phone that's, has some quality specs, based on the fall. It might be outdated by May or June, but it's definitely a decent looking phone, and it has the specs to play with the big boys. One of the problems is ZTE hasn't done too well, or in the North American marketing, in getting caught on with some of the carriers over here. None of the major carriers have really promoted their devices, or should I say ZTE hasn't promoted their devices as well as some of the bigger manufacturers. But I think this is a device that potentially could be a decent seller if it was on the right carrier and promoted properly. I don't think there's anything spec-wise. It's not going to blow you away, but it's right up there with the top phones that are out there right now. And I'm definitely thinking about giving this phone a try, not as my daily driver, but to give it a go run. Where before, I probably would have overlooked a ZTE phone just based on some of their quality and specs. But I think this Grand S is definitely right up there. Anyone else have a chance to take a look at it? Share your thoughts on it. Tom, go ahead.
No, I have a strange sort of soft spot for these sort of Chinese manufacturer devices. Like I always, every MWC or CES show, I always take a special interest in them and try and have a look, see what sort of coverage I can find on them and stuff. And I think, I don't know, I would kind of like to try and live with one, but I'm always scared about build quality.
Yes, and that has been an issue, and another one has been the updates. And I think that's something where they need to learn that if they want to play with the big boys and they want to break in that North American market, that's where, you know, the support part and maybe some of the build quality. Although I tell you, those devices look pretty slick.
Yeah, I mean, especially the design of the Grand S, like it's, you know, I mean, it might not be like too like minimal or understated, but it's a nice design. It's pretty unique. You know, it won't sort of blend in with everything else.
I definitely would like to see this phone over here. I think it belongs on a carrier. I mean, if you look at some of these shitty mid-grade devices that, you know, Samsung or Motorola throws out at some points, I think that this phone would probably be a better seller than some of those mid-range phones. Why not throw it out? Obviously, you know, they're, you know, being from China, they can mess around with the pricing and put a better price out there. I think that this could compete and probably take place of those mid-range phones. So, all right, Tom, let's go off to another Chinese phone that was announced during CES, and go at it. What was the next one here?
Huawei have announced the Ascend D2, which is their quad-core 1080p entry into the whole quad-core 1080p game. And spec-wise, it's got a 5-inch Full HD display. It's got a quad-core. It's their own quad-core. It's a K3 V2. You know, it's. I've got to get the specs up again because my touchpad's crashed.
What else has it got?
It's got 2 gigabytes of RAM. It's got a 3,000 milliamp hour battery. You know, it looks like a slick device.
The 13 megapixel camera, rear-facing camera, that's pretty decent too.
Yeah, and we should know that the 13 megapixel sensor is in fact a backside illuminated sensor, so you should get better performance in low light. It's you know, it's basically a Huawei phone. It
wasn't
you can't really say too much about Huawei's phones. They always seem to look exactly the same. They don't sort of differentiate too much on. They sort of always permanently seem to look like a Galaxy S2.
They do, and
with on-screen buttons.
This one here, the D2, has almost got a cross between an iPhone and a Galaxy S2. I guess they want to get sued by both of them. But I mean, it's an all right looking phone. You know, it's another phone that we don't see a lot of. Although some of their budget phones end up on some of the smaller carriers here. A lot of people complain about them. But I think it was the CEO, Tom. Didn't you do a story about how the CEO was calling out everybody?
He has
Tell me about.
He has some massive ambitions. It's unreal. I think he had some choice words to say about Samsung and Apple. And of Samsung, he described, I think it's a direct quote, that Samsung's cheap plastic is very cheap.
Yes.
And he said of Apple that, you know, now that Steve Jobs is gone, there's no innovation anymore, which is something I sort of. Yeah, exactly. I have to agree with that. And basically, their CEO did a lot of chest beating about Huawei and that they can be the best, and so on and so forth. But realistically, I seem to hear the same thing from them every year. Like they had a big show in MWC last year with the Ascend P and the Ascend D Quad, and nothing came out of it. So.
Well, in all fairness to them, and I'm not the first guy to stick up for them, they are the actual #3 manufacturer in the world of smartphones. So those of you at home, I mean, that puts them ahead of like the likes of HTC and Sony, and you know, quite a few other manufacturers. Now, of course, you're selling a million of these devices to Chinese people who, you know, buy them off street corners at, you know, ridiculously cheap prices and replace them like, you know, like underwear. But they definitely they're another company that I hold kind of in the same fashion as ZTE that really haven't done a lot of North American marketing or really brought a solid product with updates to the market.
No, I mean, I think I think an important thing to note about Huawei is where ZTE skinned the hell out of Android for their Grand S, Huawei seemed to sort of take a step back. Like, they have a skinned launcher, but other than that, it's just sort of stock Android underneath. I mean, they've not even... I mean, ASUS sort of does the same thing, but ASUS changes their on-screen buttons. Huawei are pretty content to leave a lot of stuff pretty much stock, which for a company like Huawei seems like a smart idea.
All right, buddy. Well, let's move on from these Chinese manufacturers. I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit more about them. We have one more to go off later on. But let's talk some Google TV here with Justin. And Justin was he wants a Google TV, and he was pretty excited about some of the announcements that came out of CES, which was nice to see some Google TV get some action here. And he's got a story that he covered for us. Why don't you get to it there, Justin? What was announced?
It's going to be a device from Netgear. It's called the Neo TV Prime Box. It's going to kind of go along the lines of some of their other Neo TV boxes they've got. This one's going to have Google TV integrated into it, though. It's third generation. So you're, of course, going to have the Google Play Store on there, Google Play Movies, all that kind of stuff.
It's got the
a little bit more integration of apps, Netflix.
So it's got a little bit of a Roku feel to it, plus a Google TV, right?
Yeah, Roku, Apple TV, kind of some of those services.
It's got the Netflix, HBO, Flickster, Amazon Instant, kind of that, plus your Google TV Play Store on
Rhapsody, Pandora. The kicker for me here is that, with the Play Store, they've got pre-installed. It's going to have an Avia media player, and it's going to allow you to connect to any other Android device, tablets, phones, whatever, that's got media on it that is not part of Google Play that'll allow you to stream it to the TV. And this was a big complaint of mine, and not only mine, but lots of people's about the Q, was that I had to get my content from Google Play or YouTube. Couldn't play any movies that I had on my hard drive, which sucks. So this for $130 is going to be, I think, quite a kick. And allowing you to do that, it's hook up external hard drives.
Yeah, the streaming. The streaming's a huge thing because I've played with a Google TV myself, and and while there was a lot I liked about it, I wanted to be able to access some of my own content that I had off of my drives and be able to stream it throughout my home, watch my shows that I have. But I wasn't able to do that with any of the GTV products that have came out on the market. And we're finally just starting to see this, and I believe this is the first device that you're going to be able to stream content from, from your own server. So that's going to be great. That's what jumped out about this product, is being able to stream my own stuff. And
that's
obviously
huge for me. I currently only get I have to hook it up through Windows Media Center and stream it to my Xbox, and that's a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass. It's slow. And I still haven't even figured out how to get some of the stuff that I want hooked up. I probably spent about a half hour trying to get a movie to work for my girlfriend. Never got it to play. I'm like, oh, sorry, you'll have to watch something on Hulu.
There was another feature on here that kind of stood out to me, too, and that's that Google's own Chrome web browser is going to be on it as well.
So, kind of a mix of maybe the Q and some features of, the Chrome box, and that's pretty cool, because I hooked up the Chromebox to my TV for a little bit. I had the Q I hooked it up forever until just about a month ago, and the browser on my TV was kind of nice to have, so I didn't have to have my computer in the room with me. I move my laptop around constantly, just wherever it feels more comfortable to game or whatever, so having a browser in my room was pretty awesome, so I like the idea of having all these things.
Another thing it's got is, besides this decent remote, it's got a QWERTY keyboard on the back, right?
QWERTY keyboard. It's got a D-pad, touchpad.
Yeah, so that'll work. Now, the really nice thing about this is the price tag as well, too.
$130.
Can't go wrong at that price for all those features. This is what Google TV should have been 3 years ago. So
I agree.
Definitely, if you're in the mood for Google TV or you're looking at Rokus and stuff, wait for this. I've actually been in contact with the people at Netgear, and I'm looking to get one of these devices sent out to me so I can play with it. And we'll definitely hear more, as I think it's supposed to be launching very, very shortly. So we should hear something about this any day now. This is not one of those things in 2-3 months. It's supposed to be out really soon. So.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm going to go over to Alex here for a minute on our next story. Alex has got some more Hui news for us here. And why don't you take it away, Alex? What else did we see last week that caught our eye?
Well, Huawei finally announced or made official the Ascend Mate, which is that 6.1-inch device. It's a 6.1-inch screen it's a 720p display with a 1.5 gigahertz quad-core processor, 2 gigs of RAM, 8 gigabyte internal storage, 8 megapixel rear-facing camera, and there's a front-facing one, but they didn't give us specs on that one. And there is a micro SD card slot along with a 4050 milliamp battery and Android 4.1 along with Hawaii's Emotion UI on top.
That's a big ass phone. I mean, I love the Note series. I have a Note. I have the Note 2 here playing a demo. And I even got Alex. You know, he was playing his Ingress on the Note 2, and he liked it. Eh, Alex? You ended up with a GS3
over there dead somewhere.
Right?
The battery's dead.
But you know what? This is massive at 6.1, because you know we're talking about this is like you going from a 5-inch phone to like a 4.4 on the Note 2. So this thing is massive. It's huge. I think I'm gonna definitely have to try it out just because of my fascination with large phones. But this might even be too big for me because it's like halfway right between my Nexus 7 tablet and my Note. It's like, holy Christ, it's gonna be huge.
No, I don't buy it. You'll be fine with that because you've told me numerous times that you take the Nexus 7 in your pocket sometimes when you leave the house. So I think you'll be fine with it.
By accident, not on purpose, and when I do carry it, But I've actually gone to the grocery store. And what the hell's in my pocket? Oh, it's my freaking Nexus 7. Holy shit! What the hell am I doing with that? It's happened, So I could, but this might be just crossing the line. 6.1.
It's ridiculous.
It's crossing the line for sure. I think people need to just knock it off with trying to bridge the gap. And are they trying to bring back the popularity of Jinko jeans? I mean, that's what's going on. You guys remember those with the pockets that were like big enough to fit machetes in?
Yeah.
Everyone's wearing
machetes as an example.
That's ridiculous.
Out here in California, cargo shorts are really popular still. They got those big pockets and those side pockets going on there.
I'll see if I can get you a briefcase to put that phone in so you can carry it around with you.
Yeah. Messenger bag. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh boy.
Well, the rumor was that the Note 3 is supposed to be 6.3 inches, right?
Good God, knock it off. That's what I'm...
Not even Samsung is that crazy.
You know what they're gonna do, and I'm gonna tell
hope
you now.
not.
This is what's going to happen, guys, is that the Note 3 is going to have a flexible display, and you're going to fold it up.
Oh, there he goes with
Is that
his
what's gonna
folded
happen?
stuff again.
Every week.
Inches in size.
You've got a thing about are you like a master of origami or something? Like, you just
It's gonna turn into like a tiny cube, and then you can press a button, and it transformers out into this.
Oh, if only.
Exactly. That's what's going to be happening.
That's what the flexible displays are for.
That's right.
So, and
you can wrap it around your wrist, like those slap bracelets.
Yes, like a slap wrap. Yeah.
Oh, those things are cool. I still play with them.
You know what I'm finding quite funny, guys, is, I've seen some other tech sites, they say, oh, the new phablet 5.0 inches. And it's like, 5.0 has now become the standard size of smartphones.
It's the new black.
It's, it's the new black. 5.0 is like your standard size. Pretty soon it's going to be the smaller version, or the extra small is going to be the 4.6 and stuff like that.
The Ascend Mini.
So, if you have a 5-inch phone, you're kind of normal now, in the normal size bracket. So the 5.5 and the 6.1 and the 6.3s are now the phablets. No longer is a 5-inch device called a phablet. You heard it here first. All right, guys. No questions on that one. That means let's move on to our next story. Alex, back to you again. We had Qualcomm announced their next generation quad-core 600 and 800 mobile processors. Can you give us a little outline on, without getting too techie on it for our fans at home, so they can understand what is this new Qualcomm processor going to bring to the table for consumers?
Well, the Snapdragon 600 series is supposed to give you 40% increased performance over the Snapdragon S4 Pro, which you find in the Nexus 4, Optimus G, the Droid DNA, and a bunch of other newer phones right now.
That's the replacement for the
Yeah.
S4 Pro. Okay, the 600 is the replacement for the Pro. And
it'll be clocked between 1.5 gigahertz and 1.9 on all 4 of the cores. And
okay.
it's supposed to give better battery life too, but I think they promise that in every new processor now.
Well, they have to.
And in the 800 series, it's supposed to be the one that you put in all the high-end
That's got
devices.
the Cortex A15 processor, which is a really fast processor, right?
Yep.
It's based on the quad-core Crate 400 CPU, Adreno 330 GPU, and this is supposed to be the new monster, right? What is this going to run in gigahertz?
2.3 gigahertz.
Wow, that's going to be some pretty fast stuff. Going to be some pretty badass phones coming.
It also has a 4G LTE modem integrated on the chip.
So we're definitely likely to see Qualcomm dominate again in this next year of smartphones. They have some competition. We'll talk about some of their competition coming up here right quickly. But definitely, some 40% improvements over the S4 Pro. And that was a pretty heavy-duty beast as is. So look for some really solid performance out of the new phones in the next year. And now we'll hit it over to Christina. Christina, you've been so quiet, but now it's your turn. Christina has another topic to discuss about what was announced last week. What was it?
It was the Asus, however you say it there. How do you say that? Is it Asus?
Cube.
Asus?
Yeah.
Asus?
Asus.
I say Asus. That's how I say Asus.
Oh, see, everybody has their way. But the Cube.
Whatever, Hawaii, Hui. Okay. Anyways.
Cube, which is supposed to be along the lines again, with the whole Google TV aspect. And at first, I kind of blew it off, but the more I read about it, it's actually pretty cool. It'll come with 50 gigabytes of web storage, cloud space. You'll have access to 100,000 movies, TV shows with Netflix and Amazon Instant Video. There's supposed to be this amazing Cube interface that they got going on with it. It's also got the motion sensor control support for gamers and other types of apps that need that stuff. And then it will also have a mobile remote app that people will be able to use to control it with from their mobile device. And I know a lot of people were speculating, would it be under $100? But it's priced at about $150, they said. So it's really actually not that bad. It doesn't have as much as the Netgear, but I would definitely buy it if it were me.
Asus always brings great products to the table, so we'll have to get our hands on it and see how it stands up, especially with what Justin was just talking about with the Netgear Neo TV Prime, and you also have the Vizio Co-Star as well too. So definitely some new competition heating up in Google TV. Hopefully we'll see a 3.0 version and some new features coming to Google TV. I think we can look forward to that at the next Google I/O, which has been rumored. So let's move on to our next topic here, and we have here the next story by Alex. Let's go back to Alex. What is it, Alex?
Well, Sunday night to kick off CES, NVIDIA announced the Tegra 4. Which, of course, is supposed to be more powerful than the Tegra 3.
I would hope so.
It's got 4 A15 CPU cores and 72 GPU cores. And it has 4G LTE modem on board with it.
I think it's worth noting one thing about this 72 GPU cores, just to compare to what was inside the Tegra 3. Anybody else know how many GPU cores were inside that thing?
12.
12.
I guess good, didn't I? No, I knew that.
12
But yeah,
GPU
that's
cores.
going to be huge for gaming, isn't it, Justin?
I don't even want to say what's happening right now because of my excitement. It's just
Okay.
continue.
It's got the ARM Cortex A15, which is a nice chip. And it's, as he said, the LTE capability and 4K ultra high def video support. Amazing. So you're going to see this, and it's going to be another battle with, Qualcomm to see, who gets into what devices. Tegra 4, you're probably going to see that in a lot of the tablets, and we'll see if that ends up in an HTC device, maybe, Tom.
Well, I have a very, as you know, my One X is the international version. It's got the Tegra 3 in it, like the One X Plus has on AT&T. And why put it in a phone? I mean, it's just why? I mean, it's just. But no, HTC will probably try it again. I mean,
but they have this +1 technology going in these Tegra.
It doesn't help. It didn't help on the Tegra 3 anyway. I mean, like Alex will tell you, I'm always complaining about battery life on my phone.
I think it works better in tablets and smartphones because the battery life on the Nexus 7 is really good.
It is. It is really great, and obviously didn't work so well in the phones. We'll see how it stacks up, the Tegra 4, as we start breaking it down when we start to see it in some devices coming up. Let's see who the first device gets a Tegra 4. And let's move on as well here to Tom. Back to you. There was a really big announcement from NVIDIA. What was it? Another one.
Project Shield.
Project Shield!
It was like the most exciting release.
Now, Project Shield was like everyone knew the Tegra 4 was coming. Everyone knew that NVIDIA might do announce some more stuff with their whole GeForce Grid thing, but no one knew they were going to just go, oh yeah, by the way, we made this thing and you can play games on it and it's got Tegra 4 in it and it's really cool. No one knew they were going to do that.
What kind of thing is it, Tom? For those at home that were totally living under a rock last week, please explain this thing to them.
Well, basically, it's think PSP meets Xbox controller with clamshell. It's a clamshell portable Android gaming console. It's got dual analog sticks. It's got a D-pad. It's got the usual array of buttons and
right?
Yeah. Spec-wise, it's got a 5-inch 1280 by 720p LCD display. It's got the Tegra 4 quad-core Cortex A15 in there. There's an SD card. There's a HDMI out. There's a massive battery. Like most of the weight inside it is I think it's like a 33 watt-hour battery. So that gets you like 10 solid hours of gaming or 24 hours of HD video. It'll stream 4K games to a TV.
Which, just to interrupt you, NVIDIA is supposed to be one of the first companies to come out with 4K gaming through the Tegra Zone this fall, and I think almost 100% of their games are compatible with this device as well.
I mean that's a bold thing, but I mean one of the good things about it is as well is that it's not just locked to the Tegra Zone. It's basically stock Jelly Bean on the device, and then there's like a special Tegra Zone sort of hub that you'll get like an Xbox 360 type of menu. But perhaps the most exciting thing about it is that if you have Steam in your house and you have a computer with an NVIDIA GTX 650 or above, you can stream your Steam games from your PC and play them at full speed, full spec on this wherever you are in the house on the same Wi-Fi network.
But it's got to be a GTX 650?
Yeah, it's got to be a GTX 650 or above. So if you're on the 500 series or below, you're out of it.
What about a GeForce GT 630M sitting in my Asus laptop?
Nah, because you need a GT 650 for that.
Well, NVIDIA can just they can suck it. Then I don't care.
I don't know. You might, in all seriousness, if it's Kepler, you might have a chance.
I've been trying to play Steam on my phone and tablet for literally like months, and it's possible. It doesn't work very well.
Well, this is going to play Windows games, so I mean that would be the Steam, right? I mean, I'm not familiar with this gaming stuff. So how do you guys, it sounds all great and everything, and you can, it looks like you can pretty well use it as a phone. Could I put this thing up to my head and use it as a phone?
No, probably
Why
not.
would you want to do that?
No, it's Android tablet come PlayStation Portable sort of thing.
Yeah, it's the toy to play with.
Does it have a front-face camera? Is it going to support like Google Plus Hangouts, things like that? Did you do that?
I don't think it has a front-facing
No,
camera.
I was
I don't think it
going to
does,
say, I
actually.
don't remember them talking about that during
No.
the release.
Yeah,
But that would be
Video?
awesome.
not
was
that you don't need it,
awesome.
but that would have been a kind of a cool addition.
That'd have been cool hey, that's going to come in the Shield too. Okay. Now,
The Shield Max.
Now we've thrown out last week. Me and Tom, we kind of bantered back and forth. I'm not a huge gamer, but we got Justin here and Tom, and Christina is a gamer too. Hey, I threw your ass in there. Don't worry. Now this is kind of a controversial product, at least in my eyes, because I know how you guys love to do your gaming, and you love to have your portable devices to game on, so you can game anywhere, which is great. But isn't that what a tablet and the phones are?
No.
No?
Not necessarily. I mean, when you look at the possibility and the plausibility of control options, it's just, this is a huge step. I mean,
Yeah, because they're
the
like
other-
all in one.
it's not because of the all-in-one for me. I could care less about that. It's more or less the actual controls. I mean, it's got a D-pad that, it feels and looks like the shape of an Xbox controller, which to me is comfortable. And it just, I don't know, I think it'd be easy to use and control. You look at the other competitors of things out there, like Razer's portable tablet thing that runs Windows 8, things like $2,000. Who wants to buy that crap? This thing will probably be under $300. So that's baller. And it's going to have Tegra 4 in it? Mm-hmm.
So
I'm
is
all
this
about it.
now? Let me ask you guys, because you're gamers, the controller versus the touch. Is it really that huge?
Yeah.
Depends on the game.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think Justin will play a game on anything, but like, me, Chris, I've got a stupid mouse,
I'm going
I have
to
a mechanical keyboard. I can't. Physical controls for me are pretty much part of the fun. Like if I can't interact with the game in a fun, seamless way, then I don't want to play the game. It's like there's a reason why Angry Birds is so successful, because you swipe and that's it. It's so easy.
Okay, now I want to ask you guys, play the devil's advocate here. Are you willing to carry this thing around, Christina?
Yes.
Would you carry this around so you could game?
Yes, I would.
You would.
Yep.
Justin,
Yeah.
you too?
Absolutely. I do it all the time with my tablet. I just don't have a controller.
Yeah, but a tablet's kind of a different, it's
But see, when you play games on a tablet, though, I mean, like for me, it was always like I had to keep switching it because it would eventually hurt my hands from having to hold it.
I don't know. I never have that issue, but it's,
She's got like lobster hands. So.
maybe if you are interested, I have seen a very interesting article on how to wirelessly link your Xbox 360 controllers. So maybe check that out, thread on XDA. That might do you some good.
Maybe Justin needs to write an article about that to tell the people at home so how they can do that themselves. Sounds great. I know what Justin's doing. Awesome, buddy. Thanks for volunteering. Tom, you be carrying this stuff out to the pub and stuff like that?
Well, I think this is the thing. I think it's not.
Tom's so excited about it.
He's so excited that his voice just cut out.
For me,
Yeah.
it's like I could play this. You can play this lying on the couch. On a long journey, you could take it on holiday with you. I think it's that kind of device. I don't think it's designed to be the kind of device you open and close, like to get 5 minutes of gaming here, or like 5 minutes of gaming here. I think it's where you can game anywhere, but not like you're not going to be like walking down the street and playing on it, or like
Well, you're not going to You're not going
He
to be
just gave me a brilliant
You're
idea.
not going to be gaming with this thing at home though, because you got your Xbox 360 streaming fast and everything right there,
Oh
right?
man, I mean the
Alex!
360. Well, if I was at home, I wouldn't use the 360 because the 360 graphics are just.
Or
I would-
whatever
I would
the hell
probably-
you're using. I mean, your home.
I would stream because if I was at home, you know, I could.
You want the
slap-
bigger screen at home. You don't want to be playing on a 5-inch at home, right?
No, but I can.
No,
No, but I can. Put
absolutely
my, yeah,
not.
but the
I
thing about
do.
it is, I can stream my Steam games from my computer upstairs, from anywhere, and get physical hardware controls. You know, I can be chilling out in the garden. You know, whatever.
Oh, God.
Garden, sipping
That's
on
right.
some tea and some biscuits.
Yeah,
Good
man.
idea.
Yeah, get the tea tray out. Yeah.
But I mean, because me, when I'm gaming, I want the biggest screen possible, and that would be kind of, you know, that's one of the things why I don't game on my devices a lot is because of the screen size. And I'm just wondering how, you know, a smaller screen like that at home, you know, you'd rather go to your console, no?
Well, I mean, you've got 5 inches, but there's no controls on there. You've got all of that 5 inches. You just sort of, it's right in front of your face. You've got all this glorious HD. Well, it's not that glorious, but you know what I mean. It's front and center. There's no controls getting in the way on that screen. It's just, you know.
All right, okay.
That's
I'm asking the wrong guys here. Let me ask Alex. He's not a gamer. Would you like to play Ingress on this app?
That's what I was going to say.
Walk around playing Ingress, you know, and whatever the hell
I
there.
think it's gonna depend on how the controls work with the app.
Yeah, Ingress is more touch screen. I don't know
Yeah.
how the controls would be with that.
I don't
But-
think
Well,
the
I
main,
don't think you're ever gonna have a chance to play Ingress on it because the way they're rolling out invites, the game's gonna be dead in a month anyway.
That's what you said 2 months ago.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. A little
I
stab.
finally reached level 3 yesterday.
Hopefully, we see
I
some
finally
more
reached level 6.
Ingress coming out of beta. Now, I want to hit this one more question, and I think this is an important one. Me and Tom got into it. We had fisticuffs.
Oh,
over
boy.
Messaging about what the fuck is going to be the right price for this thing. Now that's crucial because that's going to depend on whether this thing actually sells more than 1,000 units. And I think it's really important that they price this right because we already heard rumblings at a CES that this is not going to be a loss leader. And a loss leader is something that they sell at basic, at cost or below. So that leads me to believe that there's a few different price points. And Tom did a story on it already, kind of covering the different type of price points. And basically we said this is not going to be a $99 product. The price point is, one of them potentially is $199, which I think it would sell a boatload and get the average consumer if they could sell it at $199, but probably is worth more than $199, I would assume, and we probably won't see it at that price. Is that what your guys' feelings would be?
Well, I don't think we're going to see it for $199. I mean,
Yeah.
Tegra 4 in there as well.
I was going to say,
Nvidia
just with the Tegra 4, I think it would put it well above that.
Because when you think about the Nexus 7, it wasn't like officially sort of announced or anything, but when Nvidia announced they had like a subsidy program for the Tegra 3, like the Nexus 7 must have been one of those sort of subsidized tablets. So I don't think they can have a subsidy or be able to sort of deliver the Tegra 4 for that cheap. But then again, it is their own chip, so
We'll see. Now the next price point would be $249. Now that's kind of like I would feel would be, the $199 is kind of the cheap price, but I think the $249 is realistically where it's got to be. At least me personally, and not being a gamer, but if I'm going to go and pick this thing up and decide that's going to be my new gaming device, $249 is going to be the number that I think makes or breaks it. Maybe $275 tops. What do you guys feel on that? Let's go to Justin. What do you think at $249? You think that's still too cheap?
I'd buy it at $249. I might even buy it at $299. But
yeah.
the reason why I'm thinking this, and this is just kind of epiphany I had in the last couple minutes as you were stating that, I'm thinking, the tablet that I have, the Nexus 7, which is my best portable gaming piece of equipment at the moment, has got 8 gigabytes of goddamn storage. And with games like Dead Trigger and Horn and freaking Dead Score, was it Demon Score? The stuff that's got like gig and a half of storage space. It's, it sucks to have, and I'm almost thinking about buying another device. With this getting SD support and a certain amount of onboard storage, I mean I could totally see paying that amount, because then it would only be for games. I wouldn't have to use multiple things on it like I do with my Nexus 7 tablet.
But isn't there, to play the devil's advocate here again, wouldn't you rather just have your tablet, you can game on there, you can surf on there, play your other apps on there?
Once again, I would say no, because there's not an amazing option for controls.
Okay,
kind of
now let me throw this at you guys. I'm fascinated by this Tegra 4 and just the brain scheme on it. But what if we get some USB support on some of these tablets, and you can just go and plug in an Xbox controller in it now? Is that
you already can on
the
them.
market for this
that
thing?
That possibility is technically already there, but it requires a fair amount of time, hour and a half out of your day. It's not just plug and go.
To plug in just a controller into your tablet, like you already do with your console. Have the controller there, plug it into your tablet. Would that kill, this device?
Yeah, but that's one more thing to carry in your bag. Like if you were gonna,
well, you got to carry this whole thing anyways. You're gonna carry your tablet anyways, and you're gonna.
Well, what if you weren't
There's
gonna
too many
carry
wires. There's a wire involved.
See, what if you weren't gonna carry the tablet?
Bluetooth on the tablet, Bluetooth controller, right?
They're all trash.
Have you tried the Moga? I think it's a piece of junk.
Yeah, the Muga sucks. It doesn't work with my
Even
extended
Alex
battery.
says the Moga sucks, man.
I bought it and returned it to my
All
own store
right.
Okay.
within a day.
All right. To get back onto track, so now at $299, is this thing become too expensive? Is it near the console price? And some people start to waver and say,
Well,
I'm not so sure.
I think that's cut off for most people.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I
$299 for me would probably be my cutoff right there.
That's as
would
much as
probably
you would
be-
go
spend,
above that.
or you wouldn't spend at $299.
I would spend the $299, but I wouldn't go over that.
No, me neither. I think $299 is the absolute max, because the PS Vita retails for $249. So for an extra $50, you get a console that you can sort of. It's like your one-way ticket to play whatever the hell you want, pretty much. Whereas the PS Vita, there's proprietary memory cards that are ridiculously expensive. Games are like $30-40. You get the Project Shield, and Tegra's own games are what, like $10 at most. You get like you can get Steam games, whatever game you want off of the Play Store, whatever.
You think they're going to have any compatibility with NVIDIA's cloud gaming stuff they're setting up on this thing?
Didn't they talk about that?
They did. They announced that it'll be hooked up with the cloud.
I was gonna say, because I wrote an article on that, and I thought they said that in there.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you for conducting this NVIDIA survey. We now know the price point that the product will now be sold at will be $299 if NVIDIA wants to sell this. And yes, we're getting paid to find this out.
I was
Anyways,
about to say, when can we expect the check?
yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Couple more stories. Let's move on here quickly as we're running out of time. Alex, let's get over to you. There was a product, new chip from Samsung announced. What was it, and what's the specs?
Well, Samsung announced their new Exynos 5 Octa chip, which is running.
Awesome.
It's running on the ARM Big Little Cortex A15 architecture, so it's gonna be amazingly fast.
This thing's like 3D gaming performance that's twice as fast as anything right now. Cortex A15 architecture is amazing. This is going to be the CPU that you want in your device this year. I mean, it's going to blow out any of the A7, A8, A9s, all that stuff that were out. This is going to be what you want in your phone by Samsung, mark my words. I'm going to be surprised if Qualcomm is going to be able to touch this thing. We already hear great, performance from the Nexus 10, which has a Core A15, but it's only a dual core. So watch for this bad boy to have, this Octa chip is going to be amazing. We'll get into it a little bit more as these devices start to roll out with them. But this is something, anybody who's looking for a tablet or a new phone, this is going to be amazing. This is kind of like when you get a quad-core computer and then it's like, yeah, I don't need to upgrade for a while. Well, this is going to be the chip that you're not going to need to upgrade for a while when it comes to phones. That's for sure. All right, guys. If Alex as well, actually, let's go to Tom here. Tom. There was a new Sony Xperia device announced. What was it?
Yeah, we all know Tom was excited.
The Xperia Z is finally upon us.
Come on, you gotta be more enthusiastic.
I'm trying to respect.
Aren't you excited about this?
Yeah, I am very excited, and I think the best way to sum it up before we get into specs and whatever else is that for the first time since there were Sony Ericsson smartphones or any or whatever, it's now Sony have bought top of the line design with state of the art processing power. Like the Xperia S and the Xperia T beforehand, they both lagged in sort of processing power, whereas this has got it all.
This has got the full package here. Give us the rundown, Tom, on what is in the killer specs on this new and a sexy looking phone.
Oh yeah,
sexy looking phone, definitely.
Spec-wise, we've got a 5-inch Full HD 1080p display. We've got a quad-core Snapdragon S4 Pro clocked at 1.5. There's 2 GB of RAM, 13-megapixel Exmor RS rear-facing camera with a 2.2 megapixel front-facing. There's 16 GB of internal storage, and there is a micro SD card slot. It's got Android 4.1 Jelly Bean at launch, a 2330 mAh battery, LTE, it's dust-proof and water-resistant as well.
For you swimmers.
Yeah, well, you won't go swimming with this phone. You'll kill it that way.
Don't forget the Sony Bravia Engine 2 included for the super brightness and clarity on it, which will give it a very nice display. Now,
yeah, it's just a color change, but yeah.
There's also a lot of NFC features that are included in on this as well. There's a battery stamina mode which can improve your standby time of up to 4 times. So they have some really nice
battery stamina is pretty cool. You can predetermine things like just with tick boxes. So like if you want more battery power and you don't want to be disturbed or anything, just predetermine it and then just hit the button and forget about it, and it does it all for you.
Yeah, it can shut down battery-draining apps whenever the screen's turned off and restart those apps as well when the screen's turned back on. That's great because I have some apps that just suck the battery life out of my phones, and I'm not even using them. It's because they are open running in the background. It's like, where the hell did all my battery life go? And it's because I didn't close that app up properly. So, when they have these, they're going to introduce some new NFC headsets with these as well, too. What's up with the dust and water resistance? Tell me more.
They are industry compliant with IP55 and IP57 standards, and basically what it means is like, so say you go, I don't know, you get it covered in like dust or sand, it will be all right, sort of thing, because like all the ports are sealed away behind flaps, which is an annoyance, but you can also just pour water on it and it'll be fine. So it's sort of like a.
I'm sure that you should be pouring water on any electronic device.
Sony tells you can just pour. Look, the Xperia.
Have you seen the video?
Yeah, they get an Xperia Z video.
Yeah,
they get it covered in dust.
I first see a lot of phones being returned. It's not waterproof. I dropped it in the toilet.
Well, there's a difference between waterproof and water resistant. Like if you were to. If you were to put like if you go further down in the post as well, there's a picture of the Xperia Z pretty much submerged in water. But I guarantee if whoever put that in there doesn't sort of yank it out within like 10, 15 minutes, it'll die. I think.
Which is nice because you drop any water on the phone, you spill a glass of water next to your phone, you're tripping out. So it is really nice. So you don't have to walk around on eggshells when you have your phone and you're near any water. So it definitely is a nice feature. One other thing I just wanted to throw in there, and I think you had reported on it, but it's supposed to launch in March on Vodafone in the UK. We don't have any US announcements as of yet, but one of the big things, and this is kind of important with Sony, announcing this at CES, is that they have an opportunity to jump ahead of the rest of all the major manufacturers out there with their premier flagship device and get it out before HTC. HTC, they're probably going to, Mobile World Conference, announce their device, so it won't even see, at earliest maybe an April launch. LG as well too. We know Samsung is going to hold their event, probably May before they get out a new device. Probably won't hit stores till June. Motorola, God only knows what they're going to do and when it's going to come out. So, for the people who are going to be buying phones in the next 4 months, the Xperia Z is going to be the leading phone on the market, kind of with the newest bells and whistles, and is going to be getting a lot of, attention, and, is definitely going to steal away some sales from the other manufacturers because they announced it early at CES, and is going to be out in March probably, beginning of April for the US. But they definitely are going to be a force to be reckoned with this year with this device. Although some of the specs on it, while it is great, it could be outdated by mid-year because it is a quad-core, Snapdragon Pro. We've already heard about the predecessor to that, which will probably start to see, end up in devices in May, June, right? So they better sell a lot of them in the next 4 or 5 months because they'll probably be outdated by then. What do you think on that, Tom?
I think this time around.
You're buying one, aren't you?
Oh yeah. I think that in the UK the phone launches the week before my birthday, so.
Oh boy.
No, but in all seriousness, I think the thing to sort of take note here is that the Snapdragon S4 Pro is a competent processor. I mean, it's based on Cortex A15. It's very power efficient. And when Sony tried this at CES 2012 when they announced the Xperia S and the Xperia Ion, but the problem with that was it was the same processor that came in the touchpad. It was the S3. It was the Snapdragon S3. So by the time any other phone launched after the S or the Ion, it was instantly outdated. But the S4 Pro, I think that's going to hold its own for quite a while. So yeah, it's going to sort of pale in comparison come sort of June time, as we go into the second half of the year. But I don't think it's going to pale quite as badly as other Sony phones have before. And I mean, it's got 2 gigabytes of RAM. Not a lot of phones have got 2 gigabytes of RAM even now.
No, and is definitely a high-end phone. It's going to compete with all the flagship devices, and is honestly the first Sony device that I've noticed since ever. Like, honestly, this is the only one that's actually caught my attention and would be a device that I would actually consider. I probably won't buy one, but it would be one that I would consider. So kudos for Sony, and hopefully we see a lot more great things from them. And that wraps up our show. I'd like to thank Alex, Christina, and Justin, and Tom for coming out, talking CES, some of the new rumors. This is our first show of 2013. We've got a lot more to come and a ton more news to come your way as we have Mobile World Conference coming up with tons of leaks and rumors in the next month. So look forward to some great upcoming shows. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And we'll have an action-packed show, probably a little bit shorter so we won't have to catch up on all the CS stuff. But thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you all next week on the AH Show.